probably one of the greatest artists of all time. That is of course the grave of George Michael. His mum in the middle and his elder sister to the left hand side. Tragic loss. Thank you so much for the music over the years, be it Wham or as a solo artist. I think it was Too Funky was probably one of my favourites, and Last Christmas from Wham. The second victim of probably the most notorious villain killer in history, and that is of course Annie Chapman, the second victim of Jack the Ripper, who was butchered on September the 8th 1888. So that's somewhere in the region of, must be 136 years perhaps. The idea of the pennies is people put that here in tribute. I think it's something in the region of 4p would have given shelter for that night. Really sad, and I think this is the only interment. Obviously I dare say the body was moved and this is more of a commemorative area because of over 100 years people get reburied, so on and so forth. But yeah, this is the only grave that actually mentions that is a victim of Jack the Ripper. The rest are just standalone graves. On site here at the City of London Cemetery is this absolutely wonderful little pond with loads of fish and loads of friendly little turtles flapping about. In fact, you might turn around and say that a lot of them, where you see the watermarks coming up, are blowing bubbles, and well they should be, to be honest with you, because the significance of that is an absolute legend of the game, legend to all West Ham fans, England alike, the only England captain to ever lift the World Cup trophy, or Jules Rimet trophy as it was known back then in the day. I think he played something like 600 games for West Ham United, over 100 for England, scored a few goals, but that was not his mainstay. He was a central defender, and of course he then went on to play for the likes of Fulham before playing out in the United States. And he of course was the one and only Bobby Moore, England captain, 1966. Had to pay homage to you. May you rest in peace. Bought a silly little England sticker. I'll just pull it gently there, it can blow away in the breeze. But yeah, you don't get them like that nowadays. We seem to have failed at every step since then. I think they were built of sterner, stronger stuff. We've had a lot of promise, but we've never really reached it. In fact, the last World Cup or European Championship, we seem to trip our way past each round. Now here is another tomb. This is of course Catherine Eddowes. She was the second victim of one of the knights, I believe. Or might have been the first. I get it mixed up. I know in total there were 5 victims. Catherine Eddowes, Mary Kelly, Polly Ann Nichols, Elizabeth Stride and Annie Chapman, all butchered by the same man, or so we're led to believe. There are other stories that go about that turn around and say that he actually went on to escape. One coming up right to our right hand side now. This is to commemorate Mary Ann Nichols. Now I believe Mary Ann Nichols was the very first victim of Jack the Ripper. May she rest in peace. Here they haven't had the coins left. He was not given real peace. That of course is the guy synonymously known in London, and obviously I've done vlogs up in Badby Woods with the Dower House and the Gatekeeper's Cottage, because this very guy stayed there as a guest of the Fawsley estate. Only on 2 occasions, but he would get solace going up and picking the bluebells up in the woods away from the prying eyes. And when he died, they skinned him and they put his bones on display, and what is interred here was basically all the fleshy parts: lungs, kidneys, brain, of course if they didn't keep that, skin, every other bit, all the loose bits and pieces. And that was, of course, Joseph Carey Merrick, aka the Elephant Man. This is where he's laid to rest. Such a sad, sad story. He, to sort of escape ridicule, he joined and made up his own circus freak show, and later on they would have waxworks of the victims of Jack the Ripper on show in there as well. So the stories sort of kind of entwine. But his condition, Proteus or Process, it was like a growth, and basically he couldn't lay down, because if he laid down his neck would break. This for me is enough. I just love the long corridors with a little bit of light coming through. I believe this tomb here was used in the 73 movie with Vincent Price, The Theatre of Blood. It is either this one or the one. There's gargoyles, or gargle is to clear the throat. That's to keep all the water at bay. That is insane. It's like they give off the vibes of like Native American Indians, the way they're standing there. I know they're not. This is the grave in question. It is the grave of Peter the Wild Boy. He died in, I believe it's 1785. Me, I'm more about where nature's taken over again, and it's uprooting, overgrown, but beautiful. Adorned by Nero the lion. I think he looks quite a bit like Aslan. That there is the tomb of Thomas Sayers, or Tom Sayers as he was known. He was a bare knuckle fighter, world champion. Dog sitting out the front was called Lion. It was a huge black mastiff. And with me loving me Scoobies, that's a beautiful sight. $53,000 graves, sometimes maybe less bodies, They'd all be sort of shelved within that area. It's one of the most truly awesome places to walk around. To be frank, I don't quite know if there's anywhere else in this country that's on a par. It's not the oldest cemetery in London, one of the big 7, but I think this one has got the uniqueness of its layout like this. See, some of these, the tombs would sit around here. Strange, this layout's totally different from everything else. Here I can't really pick out anyone synonymous name-wise. It could be anyone from literature to politics. I don't think there's any artistry, singers or actors in this spot. This is more of your wealthy bankers, custodians of different parts of the country who have family heritage, and they all end up being entombed here. Starting to crack at the seams a little bit. That's a complete loop of this anyway. And this is simply on another level with the cherubs, angels on the top there. I said it's not too dissimilar from Highgate. The difference is there you've got the Circle of Lebanon with the mausoleum ring in it, which used to have the tree that suddenly went and they put a new one in its place. The Egyptian Avenue. But this place has got a huge crypt. Unlikely to get down there. I think they do tours, but I'm certainly not going to pay out just to go and see something unpleasant under the ground. I think I chose the right time of year to come, you know, with the leaves falling, autumn. It's only, what, September the 3rd? But the leaves have certainly been dropping. We're talking about cremations, etc., and obviously, apart from my great nan, every one of my immediate family has been cremated. But here, there's so many celebrities that have come here and left here as ash. So obviously the likes of Freddie Mercury, Alan Rickman, obviously him famed of Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman. And then you have, is it Gary Rhodes? He was a TV chef. He sadly passed in recent years, and his ashes were, I don't know whether they were scattered here or taken away from here, but he was obviously cremated here. And of course Joe Strummer, The Clash, Christine Keeler, the Profumo affair, who brought down the Tory government. Just to have more of a close-up of these. I guess they're Sphinx. They're stunning. This simply must have been one of the earliest tombs here. This is Andrew Duckrow, 1837. Yeah, that certainly puts it in the east side of the cemetery now. And the first significant one I've come across is the writer Douglas Adams, 1952 to 2001. The number 42 there's a bit of a giveaway. He, of course, synonymous with the writing of The well-known film, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A true favourite of mine and my sister's growing up. It's just a sea of tombstones. Be it that you may have been rich, famous, or just general normal folk like ourselves, we can't take anything with us. And this is pretty much, it's why saying that, it's not nowadays. Most people get, I think since maybe the 70s, a lot more people get cremated nowadays than what they do get buried. I think it's a lot to do with your faith. I think Roman Catholic still have a lot of burials. Church of England, etc. A lot more cremations. Not sure about other faiths, to be honest with you. But as I said, as before on the other side, if there are specific tombs that there's a story, a name that I recognise from public history past, etc., should we say, I'll point it out to you. As before, where the land shifts, the graves start to sink, get broken up. There were some people out there for sure who left their mark with a sense of humour. Dead. And that's a great old legend from the 80s, 90s. Jeremy Beetle, watch out, Beetle's about. I believe he had polio. I know one hand was smaller than the other. Truly tragic. Taken far too soon. A lot better than a lot of your modern day stars. If anyone remembers, he has started out in Game for a Laugh. It is hard to tell when you look at these graves whether they're synonymous, but obviously it gives off the vibes that he was a football player. Just coming up on my left now is a well-known artist of his time. One Robert Andrew McLaren, Malcolm McLaren. Strangely, he's got a death mask at the front. Had his hand in a lot of pies. Music, art. Quite a cultural sensation going from the 70s into the 80s and beyond. Tell you one thing, guys, you could certainly get lost in this place just looking around. It's endless. Of course, that is 53,000 tombs. They do supply you with a guide map which will point out significant ones. I'm pretty much going off what I remember from last time. I'm pretty good that my memory's almost photographic in remembering things, so I can pinpoint where I went to last time. But as much as the rich and fat, I love this. All the graves on top of each other, the eerie vibes it gives off. And I hope that's sort of coming across to you guys. Yes, it just works out as a walk in a cemetery, but it's giving out some of the story of the lives of those that have been lost, that are now entombed here, and the eerie vibes of anyone who does your Halloween haunts and things like that. And I just kind of needed a day to myself to do something that I would enjoy. And I'll also put it out there to those of you who also do. It is seriously overgrown at the back entrance here. I'm guessing they just take it in turns, doing little bits and pieces at a time. It must be a thankless task trying to keep on top of it all. I mean, look, totally hidden. There may be those of you watching from other countries. I don't know what you've got in the way of cemeteries. Put down in the comments below what yours are like, size wise, how many people are there. As I said, 170,000 people here. Old Victorian, I'm guessing sort of vaudeville act, comedian. Now my grandparents on my mother's side, not my nan, she was German, but my grandfather, who's a Geordie, him and his original family sailed across, like many did around the time of the Titanic. I think they went out 1916, I can't remember what the boat was, SS something or whatever. They're marked down as Ellis Island, and they become vaudeville acts on Broadway in New York before coming back. The statue of Karl Marx there, the start of Marxism. Certainly not my cup of tea. I don't do any sort of politics. I must admit, the picture of the guy with a beard is very synonymous, as I've said before when I was here last time. It does remind me a heck of a lot like my father. Sort of kind of makes me think, with the dictator that the UK has got in control now, that Keir Starmer, two-tier Starmer, what sort of grave sculpture you'd have on that? Might as well be a giant cock at the moment. So he's certainly making a mess of things. Currently on the search for a specific grave again. An all-time favourite, not just him, the entire cast of a fantastic show. Sadly a few of them gone now, but some of his one-liners, you'll see what I mean when I find him. That's of course if I do. Well, here we go folks. Hello Trig, how are ya? Now don't be dismayed about obviously Trigger's tomb laying flat. They're going to get some new bits and pieces put on it. But there we go, find me where the crossroads where old ghosts meet. Love of my life on Hooky Street. Only Fools and Horses actor Roger Lloyd Pack, aka the one and only Trigger. I dare say with his broom he's really cleaning up the place. Definitely missed obviously by his daughters, famous themselves, and by the rest of the world. Simpler times folks. And obviously went on from that to the Vicar of Dibley, played another character that was very much loved. But sadly we all go in the end. Okay, time to work my way out, but not before seeing this guy. Synonymous. A lot of you won't know how infamous not just so much him but his gang was. A specific crime, let's see if I can work it out. 1963, happened approximately 8 miles away from where I live. Just the south side of Leighton Buzzard, on a place called Bridco Bridge is what I call it, other people call it different things. But his gang, the Reynolds gang, are synonymous with a great train robbery. It was his gang, Buster Edwards, that had the audacity to do that great train robbery. And unfortunately, it's one of them crimes that would be on the side of the pure romantics, stealing old money that was going to get ready for burnt. If it wasn't for them attacking the guard and giving him a serious injury, they would have been well fond of. But apart from that, they come out as a bunch of thugs. But yeah, this is the grave of the leader of the gang, Bruce Reynolds. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for today's vlog. Thank you so much for joining me here at this truly majestic site, one of the big 7 cemeteries in London. I'm going to have to get around to doing the other 6 at some point. It's been good. It's strange, bizarre, eerie, everything all put in one bag, but it's strangely enjoyable with the peacefulness of the tranquilness of what you're surrounded with, and sort of getting a chance to maybe tell some of the stories of those that we remember, obviously, like Trigger, Reynolds, who obviously was a criminal, but you've got other people, politicians, famous people, artists, singers, George Michael of course, and just to be here in their presence is quite an honour. And with that guys, check out, if you're into this sort of stuff, I've done paranormal investigations, I do a heck of a lot of urbex, haven't done any of them for quite a while, and just go out and just sort of explore the world, doing something a bit different. It's sort of, if it's quirky, I'll try and find it. With that guys, enjoy the rest of your week, I'll see you in the movies, bye for now.